Say hi to YouTube, everybody. Say hi to YouTube. That did not go as planned.
You boys like Mexico? Yeah!
Now, let me show you. So, as you can see, the muffler is back off, the shield is off, and we're about to remove the tank. Why? See that little line there? Over here? That one? And that one? And see that piece of aluminum diamond plate over there? And that piece of square stock steel right here? What we are about to do is we are going to opposite Kim Kardashian the ass of Kurt. What do I mean by that? We are going to be cutting Kurt here and here and there and there. We are going to make a square box along here and get rid of this ugly freaking thing. We're going to square box that, and then we're going to make a hood out of that here. And this is going to be one of the biggest cosmetic-esque changes, obviously, that's going to completely change the way this cart is. Other things that will be done along this line with the back end, because it's basically this project is going to be about this back end. Somebody welded right here on this, and I don't know why, but we're going to grind that smooth, and this is going to be straightened and bolted properly. Same with over here. It's going to be straightened and bolted properly. We're going to get new hardware for down here, these two bolts here, and our two bolts up front. We are going to keep this so this top part can be unbolted and removed. I've already bought the hardware. That was some of the money we spent. So we're going to make this top completely removable. But before we touch anything else, we are going to be cutting that off. As you can see, the seat's already been removed. Like I removed that so we could get to these bolts back here. Because I mean, it's obviously difficult to get to those. So we're going to remove the headrest here real quick. And when I measured this, basically what I did was I eyeballed it with the tank, because we can't let the tank get in the way of this frame we're about to build. It's already going to be close. So we're going to be cutting it off at our highest point here. And then our square stock is, I'm hoping we can drill holes in it, and this will actually go up inside, and we'll be welding the square stock around here for a little bit of extra support, if you will. I believe that's all the talking I really need to be doing. So, gonna get the, I'll probably use a Sawzall. We'll cut these off. We can do it pretty quick. Sawzall is quick and easy and is not as messy as the grinder. So, I'm gonna pull out the little Chicago electric Sawzall. We're gonna hack these off real quick with a decent blade. Well, now we've gone topless. So let's get this squared up and get some 1-inch stock out and start making some measurements and getting ready for some fun. So the next part of this is actually going to be with the stock. So what I've done and where we're at is, obviously like you just saw, we've got these cut off. I hit them with the grinder so they're just smooth. These are bolted on, so they're going to be basically however the rest of the box ends up. But these are still solid up here, and these are the ones we're basing off of. So if you're working on a dingo like I am, these are about 18 inches apart, and I'm letting them hang out just a little bit because the 1-inch square is going to actually go down. Because the goal is I actually want it to slide over these for a little bit of extra rigidity and then weld it down here. So that's basically how we're going to try to do these. And these are going, like the cart itself, the original frame actually had these angled in a little bit more. So it wasn't like a pyramid, it was more trapezoidal, or I'm sure a geometry person will correct that. But I'm going to actually square it. So these are going to be 18 inches apart as well instead of the 16 or so that they were. And yes, I do have the tank back on here. It's just loosely bolted in, just so I can make sure that we're not going too low when we get ready to weld. And I'm going to tack it and then remove the tank again. So that leads us back to over here. And I've made the first cut and I've made my next measurement. So I've put a 45 here, and I've made sure that I checked the square plenty of times, so square as we can get there, and I've bumped it on the grinder here. And I've done the same here, and you see this is what we're going to do. And the goal for this is we're going to actually cut a pie out and then just bend it and weld it solid, if that makes sense. And we're going to make sure it's square with square when we weld it, so it's a square box. And the only full joint we'll have to make will be up here. And I'd like to keep this joint more towards the back because there's less stress back here for these. I'd like these to be the bent corners, and we'll have the welded one somewhere here on the back. So I'm not gonna bore you guys with watching me sawzall this. I've been just using the sawzall instead of the cutoff wheel, simply because I don't know. I'm gonna get the cutoff wheel now. Now that I think about it, and I'll use a cutoff wheel on this piece. And I'm just gonna slowly work down, and I'll cut back to each piece as we do this. And we've only got what? 1, 2, 3 pies to cut out. And then we're gonna cut the end off at, it's gonna be about 5 foot, it's gonna be exactly 5 foot. And then we're gonna put the 45 on it and get it all bent and see what it looks like. We got the pie cut out, and I decided it would probably be best if I do this one bend at a time so I can keep it square. So here's what we've done. I've got out the grinder, as you can see, and I made sure I could square these ends up. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult to weld up the little hole, but I've got it butted up solid there, and I clamped it so it doesn't move, even though it has just a smidge. I'm gonna bring that true. And now I'm just going to tack it a little bit here to hold it, and then we're just going to move on. If you haven't learned yet, I lie a lot. I tacked it, and I mean, I just welded it. I just finished it, and I mean it's not tight in the vise, but I mean it's good enough. Like I'm happy with that. So let's move on to the next one. Slight error in calculation, and I'm going to be honest, I kind of got carried away with the grinder. So we have a little bit of a gap. That wouldn't be a big deal if you had an arc welder or probably MIG, but being this wire welder, I can't do gaps worth of crap, and it gets nasty and I have to grind it to kingdom come. So I'm going to implement a trick that my dad taught me years ago, and this is more applicable to like acetylene welding, but I've got an old coat hanger, and this little gap here that I've got, as we can see, we're going to put that little rod of coat hanger in there, and that's going to give us something to bridge the weld across. And this fit right here is okay, but we're going to have to do the same over here. As you can see around the clamp, I've got a bit of a gap. But that's what you get when you're a crappy fabricator and you're trying to learn. So I'm going to weld this dude up, and we've got like 2 more cuts to do and 2 more welds, and the box is done, and then we can start drilling it and getting it set on Kurtis. The rod trick worked. It's welded up. First grinding session is done. So we've got that done, that angle, that angle. So all we got left is the last 12-inch cut, and then bend and weld. Weld. We're getting there. So as far as I ended up getting last night, it got too late for me to grind anymore. So today the goal is to finish this and get it on Kurt. That's what we're gonna try to do. So as you can see, I've made my last couple cuts and I've got it clamped. It is square. I've checked it everywhere. It's as square as we can be. So I'm gonna tack it in a few places on both ends so we can just set to welding it. I'm not just gonna weld up one and then the other. I want to get both ends tacked, and then I want it tacked over here so everything holds still, and then we can pull it out of the clamps and we can manipulate this thing around a little bit and get it finished welding. So welder's on. Let me get my helmet on and some gloves and get this tacked a little bit, and we'll go from there. And that's what we're going for. That's the idea right there. It's all welded up, grinded out good. So, I mean, obviously we're not sitting on there because we still have to drill the holes in it, but that's the idea that we're going with. So we've got plenty of room here in the tank. So what we're gonna do is drill some 3/4 inch holes in the bottom of this in each corner and see about fitting this thing on there. The goal for today is to get this on and then take the side of the engine off, because we got another project to do. That's right. I don't know how we're going to upload these with any kind of you know, order, a proper order, because I'm kind of jumping around and going as I go, because this actual project has a lot going on for it. But I mean, we'll see as we go. So let me get a little marker and draw some little circles on the bottom of this where these holes need to be about, and see about getting this thing set on there, at least on the front, and the back will be what it is because I can move these around. So actually, that's not a half bad idea. I can take these off and put them up in there. All right, so we need to fit the front, and the back we can make work pretty easily. So anyway, let me get a marker. I'm gonna draw some things and drill some holes. There she is. We got the top on. I decided to not drill holes in it because I was looking at the actual way this was all put together, and it doesn't need that much strength. I mean, let me rephrase. It doesn't need that much strength because, I mean, this whole part is bolted on. Like, it bolts on down here, it bolts on here, and it bolts on up front. So like this, it's basically just like a strut tower brace. But nevertheless, like I made sure everything was leveled out and cut down where it needed to be. And I cut and leveled each pipe on the actual cart and used a level and made sure it was square and level. And I didn't solid weld it across, but I did weld maybe 3/4 of the way around. And I mean, it's solid. Like, I picked up the cart by it. So it's definitely solid, which is the idea. So, I mean, it's not going anywhere. So that is that. This next part that we're gonna do will actually be hinging up here and putting hinges and our top plate on this with our latch and everything else. So that's gonna be that next part. So before we actually bolt and rivet our stainless or our aluminum diamond plate to this thing, I want to take the top off and get it painted the color that we're looking for. And I've bought the color, and luckily it's not out here because it's kind of a surprise. It's loud. It's a very loud color. So what we actually have to do right now is, unfortunately, I got to break out the cutoff wheel again. And the reason for that is this. previous owners, among other whatever things they were thinking, replaced bolts with welds here, and they welded it down here. So I'm gonna actually just cut through these welds and make this, we can take this off. And when we're done with that, I'm probably gonna weld this a little bit better because I don't like the way that looks. I'm gonna grind this smooth so it doesn't look so nasty, but I will be welding this so it's a little bit better looking and stuff. So that's what we're gonna kind of do now. At the moment, at least for the present right now, I'm gonna leave the base of this chassis black. So like this will all be black down here, but the cage around here and all of this is gonna be a different color, and it's gonna be a loud color. So got the cutoff wheel already. You guys have seen me do this 1,000 times already on this project. So I'm gonna cut these 1, 2, 3 places where I can remove the top on this dude, and we're gonna rough it up and get it ready for some color. I'm not gonna lie, I got real excited. I told you I took those bolts out real quick. There was, what, like 3, 4, 5 bolts holding the top of the cage on. Took them out real quick, and then I got my cutoff wheel like I said I would, and ground them off. Here was the chassis and we were done, okay? So I cut them off and grinded it smooth, and I'm gonna put a little bit of primer and throw some black paint on just so it doesn't get rusty. Well, I had the welder out. I did the same here. Well, I had the welder out, I went ahead and I need to grind them, but I tacked this like I was talking about doing, and these washers on here. So now the pedals are as they should be. Nothing binding, they're nice and firm, just like I wanted. And there was a crack on the frame that was down here, and I threw some weld on that real quick that needs to be ground smooth because that's what grinders are for. As we can see, we genuinely need the correct belt, and I'm gonna get some washers tomorrow, and I bought a longer bolt here so I can actually bring the torque converter out about 1/4 inch where it needs to be, and put some spacers back here. I'm gonna get some 3/4 washers to help space that out, and bring this pulley out where it needs to be because I don't really care about this belt. And I'm gonna need to get I believe a Cat 99 5/8 belt for that. So when I said I got a little rambunctious with myself, I kind of already primered it without you guys. I'm not sorry. And I primered it and I flipped it up on its end real quick to get some primer on the bottom. It is in fact a go-kart, so I don't really care if it chips just a little bit and if it gets a little scratched and scuffed up, but I'd like it to not look like garbage. So it's primered. I'm gonna let it sit here for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I got all my lights on, I got my fan on, keep the fumes going outside the garage. I've got the door cracked. I had a respirator on, as you can see them up there. So, safe. I'm really hungry, I want me a pizza. And I'm gonna set this thing back up the right way, and we're gonna start looking at getting some color on it tonight. And that I'm excited for. That's green, everybody. That's pretty green. It's not a very good paint job, and I'm gonna get some black noodle or something I'm gonna run up alongside, or at least put some like handles for getting in and out. But like the paint job itself is not good, and I don't care. Like you can see where the crap is, and it's just not good. But it's a go-kart, and if you think that I'm gonna get some sandpaper and I'm gonna sand all of that down and that, like, there's just no way. There's no way. It's a go-kart. I squirted some color on it, and I'm really pretty anxious to get it put back on here to see what it looks like. So we're gonna do that, and it's getting late, and I think what I'm gonna do tomorrow is we're gonna actually start with our diamond plate and get some flash on it. And I ordered a bunch of parts, so we'll have some more projects coming up soon. very green. I had a couple spots I needed to touch up, and I'm gonna need to hit it a couple more times in some spots. But I bolted it back on, and you know, we bought some stainless hardware that I've started using again. And I mean, I'm very happy. I'm very happy with it. It's just about exactly what I had pictured. I'm kind of wanting to find some more things I can paint green just so it has a little bit more color, but I like keeping the base of the cart black. What we're currently doing now, like I said, I'm gonna put another coat on that and then we'll pull all that off. Another thing, I did get some 3/4 washers and got the torque converter spaced out. And as we can see, the 600-degree paint is not lasting on the muffler. So we're gonna have to remove that and redo it. Although, funnily enough, you can see the primer under there because that's good for 1,000 degrees. But the 600-degree is not working for the color, which is very upsetting because I loved the color. So what we're doing now is making the top plate for up here. And where we are with that currently is I've already cut it to length, and I'm gonna sort of set it on here so we can kind of see what the basic goal is. So I've already cut it to length, and I still need to hit it with the grinder, take the edges off, and I'm going to bevel the corner so it's not sharp. But this is basically what we're doing. Is this right here? If I can do this without scratching everything up too bad. So that's going to be the top here. And it goes down nice on the sides like that, which I like. And it's exactly 1 foot wide, which is convenient since that's what the square was. So the other thing that we're going to do, how we're going to mount this anyway, I know I've probably talked about it, but I've got these brass coated. I can't imagine they're actually brass. They're probably some kind of dipped or something. Like they chrome dip stuff now. It's basically a paint. But I have these brass hinges, and we're going to pop rivet them. They'll go underneath here, obviously, but they will be pop riveted to the top plate. And I've got some stainless hardware, and you can see where I've marked it. And I'm going to put 2 1/4-inch bolts in, and that will hold the actual hinge on. And if I get so bold, I might try to get some more CR3 Motorsports stainless steel bolts and washers to put on there, but I don't think I have enough. But this will suffice for now. And the reason I'm bolting them on instead of just putting them in here is strictly because the hinge won't close all the way. If I use bolts, if I pop rivet it, they might, but I kind of want to be able to unbolt it and remove it. So they will be bolted here, in here. And what we're going to do for the hasp, and I kind of had to make an amendment because I wasn't thinking straight, and I had already bent this hasp so it would fit, which obviously you can't fold something up on a 90-degree the way I had it, thought it might, because physics. So what I did was I straightened it back out, and I think it's still going to work out just fine. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bolt this to the 1-inch stock, and I'm going to cut a small relief in this plate itself, and then the hasp will be pop riveted to the plate so it can fold up and it can lift off there and it'll hinge back. So that's what we're doing now. That will basically finish the back of the cart here. Things that we'll be getting to next is actually putting a piece of plate up here. And after we do that, there's something I want to do in this area right here. So I'm gonna get this on the grinder, and I'm gonna get the burrs off and around these corners, and then we're gonna drill these 4 holes, get some bolts on those hinges, and get everything marked. Drill this and pop rivet that on. And here's the finished product at the top. As you can see, we've got it pop riveted on, and the hinges are all done. We had to do a little bit of fighting to get the hasp to work the right way, but it works good. Got our edges beveled and took all the sharp edges off, and put some little chains that I just had laying around keep the lid from going back too far. And I use some rubber weather stripping so it doesn't rattle and bounce. And overall, I mean, it's turned out pretty well. I'm happy with it. We used all stainless hardware and stuff, like I said, and it functions the right way. I'm going to get a smaller little anything to go in there, but temporarily I've been using a small piece of this little aluminum wire just to keep it from flopping when I test drive it. So that's kind of where we're at as far as the top here, and the rest of the cage is on there as good as it's going to get. So you can see here where I put a little tack and a separate kill switch on there out of a spare piece of that aluminum, and that was pretty straightforward. I cut it, I drilled it, I bolted it, and just ran the wires, as you can see, along under here, and I tended them back up there. So it's all pretty simple procedure, and it works pretty good. So the next things I think we're going to be doing are probably an air intake kit and a couple other things on it, but that's what we got as far as the top. Mark? Shout out to Ian for driving me. Say hi, Tyler.